everybody, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Brittany. Today I thought that it would be fun to round out the last video of 2024, which is crazy to say, with all of my 5-star reads that I have read this year. I did something similar last year, although I think it was posted as like one of my first videos for this year, but I talked about every book that I read. I think that's just gonna take too long, so we're just gonna talk about my 5-star reads. I will say I am a pretty generous 5-star giver. If you've watched my videos before, you know that sometimes I feel a little bit bad to give an author anything less than like a 5-star. I've been better recently about giving things like a 4-star if I'm not totally in love with it, and I will rate it low if I really hate it, but I am pretty generous when it comes to stars. Okay, without further ado, let's just get into it. Got my Kindle here and I have my Goodreads over here so we can go through the year together and see what books I rated 5 stars. Okay, so this year my goal was to read 25 books. I have exceeded that goal, so I'm very excited about that. I'm currently at 27 books and I'm actually trying to finish this book before the year ends. It is the 28th today, so I don't have many more days to finish it. If I do finish it, great. If I don't, it's like really not a big deal. But I am currently reading Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. Can't remember if I read her book this year or last year. We'll find out in a second. But I do really enjoy her books, so I think that I'm gonna fly through it and hopefully finish it and round us out to 28 books this year. Okay, our first 5-star read of 2024 is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. This is a thriller book, and I always say, if you have ever seen A Series of Unfortunate Events, the movie, and you know Aunt Josephine's house and how it is like partially built off a cliff, that is the house that I pictured the entire time that I was reading this. Not necessarily what the inside looked like, but the outside, because it constantly talks about how this house is like off a cliffside. So that's what I pictured. This book, I went into it a little bit hesitant because it had been a long time since I'd read a book by a man instead of a woman, so I was a little bit hesitant on if I was going to connect with the characters the way that I did with a book written by a woman. But I really ended up enjoying this book. I was surprised too because it was from the perspective of a woman, so I wasn't sure how I was gonna feel about that. But it was a good book. There were so many twists and turns, and whenever I thought that I figured it out, there was another twist that came on top of that. Like, arguably maybe too many twists, but I did really enjoy it. I thought it was a really strong thriller, and I am kind of looking forward to reading more of his stuff. Okay, my second 5-star read is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. If you guys know, you know. This was my first Ashley Poston book, or maybe it's Poston. I literally never know how to say her name, but I have been obsessed with her this year, and I think I've read at least her top 3 famous books that she has out. The 7-Year Slip is 100% my favorite, and it was just such a sweet book. It's set in New York City, and we know that I love New York City. I don't want to spoil too much about it, but you find out pretty early on. The thing about Ashley Poston is she always adds some sort of like fantasy element into her books, even though they're like current day romances. So you find out pretty early that there is an apartment that is magical, and basically this apartment acts as a time portal, I'll say, and it transports you 7 years back in time. So that's why it's a 7-year slip. Super cute book. It's like a right person, wrong time kind of storyline. I loved it. I want to reread this book because I truly just had so much fun reading it. Okay, next book is Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. I did rate this a 5-star, but to be honest, I wouldn't put it like super high up there compared to everything else that I read. I really did like this book. It's a small town romance. I think that the thing that I didn't love was they were a little bit older. Like they were, I want to say like late 30s, early 40s. So there were times where I kind of found it like unrelatable just for me personally, but I did really enjoy the book. It was a spicy little romance, so I did enjoy that one. Didn't read the second one because I heard the second one is literally terrible and it focuses on a different couple, so we're just gonna leave it at that one and leave it with like a good book that I've read, and it's a standalone in my mind. Okay, my next 5-star read was Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings. I really liked this book. It is basically a book about insanely rich people. It gives kind of like Gossip Girl, Devil Wears Prada, I don't know, just think of like Bling Empire. It gives those kind of vibes where these characters are just so out of touch and unrelatable, but I found it really entertaining and I really enjoyed it. The main couple, which is Magnolia and BJ, they are literally so toxic, but like you're also rooting for them to be together, but then you're also rooting for Magnolia to like be with somebody else. I don't know, it's complicated. I really liked the book though. I love that it was like a dual POV. I believe it was just a dual POV. So I liked this book. I went on to read Daisy Hates, which is the second book in the series, and if you don't know, the books kind of flip-flop from Magnolia to Daisy's POV. I went into it with such like high hopes, but I just didn't like it as much as Magnolia's book, and I actually ended up DNFing it, which is like maybe controversial. I think maybe I'll go back to it. It was just that it lost me, and I honestly spent too much time away from it to come back and pick up where I was before, so I would have to like fully reread the book to get back into it. So I don't know, because a lot of people really like Daisy's story better, so I thought that I was gonna like it. So either I will come back to it, or maybe I'll just read Magnolia's books. I don't know, let me know if that like messes up the books if I read them out of order. But yeah, just my opinion. Okay, after that I went into maybe my top read of the year, which was Funny Story by Emily Henry. You guys already know I love Emily Henry. I have loved literally every single book she has come out with. So excited for her new book that's coming out next year, I think in April, which could not come soon enough at this point. So many good books are coming out next year. But I think this was my top Emily Henry book that I have ever read. I loved Miles. I loved the storyline of this book. It was basically about fake dating, two people trying to get back at their exes by pretending to be in a relationship. It's a romance. It's spicy. I literally loved it. Fell in love with Miles. Could not recommend it enough. Okay, we're going into my like little summer romance books. I had a stint there throughout the summer months this year, so hang with me as we go through this. Okay, Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez. I did read it this year. I couldn't remember. This book was insane. I would say borderline life-changing. I truly fell in love with the characters in this book, fell in love with Abby's writing. It was like such a great romance book, but also so heartbreaking and dealt with a lot of real world issues and like trauma and anxiety. And I just thought that it was very beautifully written on the pages and such a great book. Emma and Justin are so cute. They literally meet on Reddit, which I thought was like such a fun and original way to have these characters meet, and like very modern, but like something I haven't seen done before. So I loved that. It takes place in Minnesota. I believe that Abby is from Minnesota and like all of her books take place there. So, you know, it had like lake house vibes and like the Midwest, just like kind of small town. Super cute. All of her books are also kind of connected. I didn't know this until after I read Just for the Summer. So I've actually been reading them in reverse, hence me now reading Part of Your World, which is I guess technically the first even though these are standalone books. Basically, there's characters in each book that kind of make appearances in the other. I felt like it hasn't made that big of a difference to me. It's just like I'll see a name and be like, oh, they were in this other book. I will say I didn't love Yours Truly. So I know I'm only talking about 5-star reads, but I'm just throwing it out there. I guess that Just for the Summer was like really up here for me. Didn't love Yours Truly nearly as much, so we'll see how I feel about Part of Your World, because I just don't know if I'm gonna love it as much as Just for the Summer. But good to know her writing is getting better and she's becoming a better author as time goes on. All right, we got some more Emily Henry books because I decided this was gonna be the year that I was gonna read all of her books that I had not read yet. So I read Beach Read and Book Lovers, both by Emily Henry. And I really loved these books. I would say Beach Read is probably in my top 3 Emily Henry books. It would probably be Funny Story, Happy Place, and Beach Read as my top books. I know there's like arguments between the Emily Henry community of you're either a People We Meet on Vacation person or like a Beach Read Book Lovers person, and a lot of times whichever side you fall on, you hate the opposite. And that kind of makes sense because People We Meet on Vacation is definitely my least favorite book by Emily Henry. I didn't hate it by any means, but it's just my least favorite. So I can attest that is true. But really, really loved Beach Read. Also really loved Book Lovers. If you love a good like beach, lake, romance set in the summer, you'll love Emily Henry. There's always like a deeper message in there. She just knows how to write so good. Okay, next up we have A Novel Love Story by Ashley Poston. Ashley, let us know how to say your name. I really, really liked this book as well. Not as much as 7 Year Slip, but this book was such a cute little rom-com, again with fantasy elements. Basically, this girl, I don't know how she does it, honestly. It gave very like fantasy movie kind of vibes. Like I would love to see this as a movie. But basically she gets caught in like a rainstorm and ends up in the town of her favorite book. What a dream come true, like truly. So most of the book takes place in this town that is not real with these characters that she loves, but they all think they're real people, like they're just living their lives. But basically they're kind of living in like a Groundhog Day of like the events of the book, and she is living through the events of the book and kind of trying to figure out like what her purpose is there and how to help these people so that they end up like all having their happy ending. Such a cute book, like, oh my gosh, the guy in it is like so great. I just loved it. Okay, next up we have In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros. I have been reading more of Rebecca's books because obviously we know that I love the Empyrean series, but I decided I would read more of her contemporary romance books, which is actually kind of what she's known for, or what she was known for before Fourth Wing came out. I really, really liked this book. The thing about Rebecca, if you don't know, is she is kind of like a military wife. Her husband was in the military, I believe, so a lot of her romances kind of come from that. Even like Fourth Wing, that's why it's kind of like military setting, and she has like a lot of knowledge in that. I really enjoyed this book. I thought that it covered a lot of important topics like PTSD and mental health, but it also showed like such a beautiful relationship between these people over the past 10 years of their lives. There were moments that I found it a little bit hard to get through, especially if I'm being honest, having read this like during the election / after the election. I didn't love reading about like a real life war and politics as like our country is also in shambles. So maybe just like the wrong time to read this book, but overall it was very great. I'm also gonna throw in, I don't know why I didn't rate this on Goodreads, but The Things We Leave Unfinished, also by Rebecca. I did really love that book as well. I think I might have liked that one a little bit better just because it there was like a war setting, but it was like a war back in the day. And it was kind of more so focused on current settings, and these authors, or I guess I should say an author trying to finish the book of the main character's grandma who passed away recently. So that was kind of the storyline there, and it was super cute. Great rom-com vibes. Rebecca knows how to write. 2 more books to go. Next up, I have another Rebecca Yarros book. Like I told you guys, I was really on a kick here. Variation. This is her newest book that she just came out with in November, I believe. Oh my gosh, you guys. This book is 100% my favorite Rebecca Yarros book, right below the Empyrean series. This book was so good. I feel like with her as well, it's just so great to read an author's older work and then kind of see how they're improving the more that they write. It's like such a cool thing to witness, but this book was truly insane. It was so good. I loved that it wasn't set in a war zone like most of her books are, but you had a ballerina, which I already knew I was gonna love because, in case you guys didn't know, I grew up dancing, so I felt like I could really relate to a lot of the things that Allie was going through. And then Hudson is like a rescue diver, so it deals with their relationship. They were friends almost like 10 years ago. They kind of like come back into each other's lives again. You kind of have the small town vibes. I believe it's set in Cape Cod, so you get the small town beach vibes, but you also get the trauma of these people and a beautiful little romance story between them. And Miss Rebecca knows how to write a spicy scene. That's all I'm gonna say. Great book. If you're gonna read one of her contemporary books, I highly suggest Variation. Beautiful book. And my last 5-star read of 2024, unless I rate this one a 5-star, we will see, is The Dead Romantics by Ashley Poston. I decided to finish out kind of her top 3 main books for this year and read The Dead Romantics. This was a super, super cute book, again, with the fantasy elements. Basically, how can I say this? This girl can see ghosts, and she is dealing with the trauma of things going on in her real life and the death of a family member while trying to help a ghost that she is simultaneously falling in love with. I will also say I called the twist at the end. I called it very early on because I was like, this does not make sense. This is how I think it's gonna end, and I was right. But I don't think that that means it's a bad book just because I figured out the ending of the book. It made me happy that I was correct and happy to see these characters happy as well. Those are all of my 5-star reads for 2024. Let me know what books you guys read this year that you love, because I'm always looking for new books to read. I always feel like I get worried that I am running out of books to read, but then it's like there's just so many books out there in the world. Like, I'll never run out of books to read. But I love getting book recs because, yeah, we're going into a new year. I'm excited for new books that we have coming out. I'm just super excited. I think it's gonna be a great year for us book girlies. In case you guys didn't know, I do have a book podcast with one of my friends. It's called Literally Obsessed. I'll have it linked in the description. If you guys want to check it out, we talk about bookish things. We also do deep dives. We are currently deep diving the Empyrean series. So beginning in January, when Onyx Storm comes out, we are going to be going through it with you guys and deep diving the book. And it's probably going to last us a couple months because these deep dives really take it out of us. So if that's your kind of thing, feel free to follow along. Also, feel free to subscribe if you love book content. I will definitely be doing some more in the new year. And yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys had a great 2024 and happy holidays and a safe new year. And I will see you guys in 2025. That's crazy. I will see you guys there. Bye.